Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, author of Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Your Life and host of this podcast, Incredible Life Creator. Today I have with me Jason Freeman. Hey, Jason.
Hey, Kimberly, thanks for having me on again.
Yes, this is your second time. It has been a few years and you're in a different place we still want to hear your origin story, but I know you're doing some new things, so I'd be really excited to learn about them.
Um, sweet. It's interesting for all of us. Things are constantly changing and expanding, and it brings to mind like sometimes we can get stuck on thinking our incredible life was in our past, like maybe we accomplished something, we felt best in a certain circumstance, but really our incredible life can keep, if we pay attention, it can keep happening now, today, and then tomorrow, and then the next day, and the next day. But you wanted to know a little of my origin story.
Yeah. So let me read your bio real quick and then I'm going to have you start with that.
Okay.
All right. So, whenever Jason Freeman speaks to an audience, be it an intimate mastermind in North County, San Diego, or an assembly of 1,500 high school students in Austin, Minnesota, he is absolutely 100% committed to bringing his speech impediment with him. Jason has a unique walk, a love for country music, a sweet tooth, a master of fine arts and poetry, a Tedx Talk, and a book he authored called Awkwardly Awesome, Embracing My Imperfect Best. His goal is to speak to millions of people in his lifetime. Okay, so now tell us your story.
So, as a little kid, I was fortunate to be born to loving parents, which made my young childhood amazing. But I didn't have what you would say was the best of luck at birth. You see, Kimberly, I was excited to get into the world, and I came out a few weeks early, and in the process of the excitement and confusion, my umbilical cord became kinked like a garden hose, and I lost some oxygen. As a result, I developed this pronounced speech impediment and some coordination differences. But as I said, as a little kid, I was just in bliss being me. I mean, my speech, my sound of my voice, my coordination seemed just naturally me, and I could really, like the great title of your book, I could really visualize happiness. But around the time I got into fourth grade, I went to a different school, and for whatever reason, I started comparing myself to the other kids in the class, and then instead of saying, wow, I'm unique, I'm going to own that uniqueness and really contribute a unique thing to this class. I wanted to be like everyone else in the class, and that was impossible. So I started to become miserable.
Hmm. So, where did you go from there?
Um, great question. The story gets more challenging before it gets better. In the summer of fourth or fifth grade, my best friend, who was really eccentric himself, John Gridley the fourth, my mom remembers the story of me. It was the summer, and I was walking in shorts and t-shirts, just kind of skipping around, and John was dressed in a black trench coat and had a umbrella above his head, and that was just John. He was unique, probably a very old soul. But the summer of fourth or fifth grade, he was biking and somehow got hit by a car and and didn't survive. And so many of us have traumas of all types in our lives, and I know that now that this type of thing is pretty universal, but as a little kid, it seemed like, why me? Why me? And then the next year, my grandmother, my dad's mom, died of a brain tumor. Yeah, I mean, your book title is so great, Visualizing Happiness, because it reminds us of the power to see our best in ourselves and our lives. And it also reminds us that sometimes we do the exact opposite. We visualize misery. We visualize ourselves as being small and afraid and not capable of anything. And in seventh grade, I began paying more and more attention to the national news, and at that time, that was a nuclear arms race between the United States and the USSR going on, and I became more and more fearful of that, combined with just naturally being a teenager, acne popping out all over my face, just and being immensely socially awkward. It's amazing that I do do a podcast and speak on stages now, because in seventh grade I had no idea what to say to anyone. I had no idea what to tell them about myself. I had no idea what questions to ask them. So in the spring of seventh grade, imagine I'm just a little kid, a seventh grader. I attempted to take my own life. Just a tiny kid. We I think as adults we like to kind of think that childhood is idyllic and that kids are having fun, and in many cases they are, but that's not every kid, and that's not every kid all the time. Fortunately, I called for help, and the trajectory of my life began to improve from there.
So, what made the difference? because you were so low that you didn't even want to be here anymore.
Mhm.
But then you reached out for help. And what does that help look like? And how did it help you? Obviously you're still here. Thank you that you're still here. Um,
You're welcome.
and you made it through and you're inspiring other people. So at that point, as a still really a little kid, what made the difference? What helped you kind of pull out of that and start to go in the more positive, life, more in the direction of life?
I I wish I know that so many people are suffering with all kinds of stories and feeling all alone and like no one understands and like they'll never amount to what they want to in life and like the dreams like the dreams are impossible even to pursue. And I wish I could say, oh, just I did this one thing and the second thing and the third thing. Boom, I'm a motivational speaker. I'm writing a book. I'm podcasting. Da la di da and dancing like the people over there.
Mhm,
But actually, life, or at least what I found is that life is much more intricate than that. Yes, there are breakthroughs. Like about 12 years ago, I was talking with my friend when she dropped me off. We were talking in her car, and by that point, I had come a long ways in life. I had double majored in college. I had gotten a master's of fine arts in poetry. I had worked a job assisting people with disabilities for 10 years and been really pretty successful at it. But I still, those things, Kimberly, that sometimes nag you about, or nag a person about themselves. And well, with my speech impediment and coordination, I was still like, if only I had been more normal,
mhm,
I would be living this amazing life. And I must have been having some version of that conversation with my friend Ina Lucas in her car 12 years ago. She turned to me and said such healing words. Sometimes to help others, we think we need to say brilliant things and go on and on and on.
mhm,
But Ina proved that sometimes we can help others change the direction of their life in just a few words. What Ina turned to me and said simply, Jason, your voice is a gift. Jason, your voice is a gift. So that was a breakthrough to me. That was an utter breakthrough. That something I had so ingrained in my head to perceive negatively and perceive as a limitation, a hindrance, a burden, could in fact be positive.
mhm,
That my difference could be a gift. That was a breakthrough. And I'll tell you about another breakthrough, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Um, before a few years before this conversation with Ina, I was out in Missoula, Montana, um, visiting with my Aunt Ann and Uncle Bill, and Missoula, Montana is beautiful. So I'm just was enjoying myself and thought, well, this will just be about enjoyment. This will just be easy. But my Uncle Bill said to me, and this was one of the two breakthroughs I got there. He said to me, Jason, you're drinking 3 regular Coca-Colas a day. Yeah, it's just not going to work for you. It is not a good habit. And at the time, I'm like, what? I'm Jason. I'm Jason Freeman. What I do is I drink Cokes. Coke is part of how people know me. I love Coke. Coke. You know, sometimes when people give us good advice, we can come up with 100 excuses why not to do it. And then the second piece of advice, the advice to me was even more out of the box than that. Because I kind of knew in the back of my head that, drinking Coke was probably not doing me any favors. So, but the second piece of advice came totally to out of left field as far as I was concerned. They were like, Jason, we think you should start going to yoga classes. Like, what? No. I have a physical disability. I had the kind of disability where I was on a basketball team in 6th grade, and I caught basketballs with my nose, my stomach, and all parts of my body, occasionally my hands too. I have the kind of disability that I went out for shot put in 7th grade, and I wound up in the first track meet, and I threw the shot put backwards.
Oh no.
Negative yardage. I probably still hold the school record for that. Um, but so luckily, for whatever reason, soon after I was in Missoula, I gave up Coke. Maybe it was that they put the two things. I've never said this in my life before, but maybe it was that they put the two things so close together, and I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I can actually give up Coke even though it seems hard. But I'm like, no, 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 no way. I just don't do yoga. So it was just outside of what I could comprehend. So I forgot about it. Or I tried to forget about it. But about 6 months later, I had just graduated with my MFA in poetry, my highest educational accomplishment. I should have been feeling Kimberly, on the top of the world. Like, yeah, yeah. I don't know why I say yeah, yeah. And that's what I'm saying, I guess. Like, yes, I Yes, I had a speech, or I have a speech impediment, I have a disability, but I got an MFA. And for anyone getting a master's is a kind of a great thing.
Mhm.
I could have been like, yes, and just celebrating and doing the jig, except I don't know how to do the jig. But have you ever accomplished, or anyone listening ever accomplished something, and after you accomplish it, instead of feeling great joy, you just like, oh my gosh, I'm still living my life. Uh, I
Yeah.
mean, still living the life I was living before. Like I
Mhm.
was, was still living in my, it had been a low residency program, so I went to the program for a few weeks and did the rest from my home. So, and my home in this case was a basement apartment. My folks tried to call it a garden level apartment, but basically that's a yeah, that's garden level was just a euphemism for basement apartment. And even though I loved the job I had working with people with disabilities, I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I had just gotten a master's in poetry. I knew I didn't want to teach poetry. The jobs the jobs for professional poets are extremely few and far between, and very few of them pay a living wage. So I was pacing around my apartment, and luckily I finally remembered the second breakthrough that Annabelle gave me, which I had my aunt Annabelle gave me, which I had tried to forget. And if any of us forget a breakthrough moment and don't utilize it, it's not going to work.
Mhm.
But luckily, I remember they said try yoga, so I am bundled up. It's when oh yeah, it's also January in South Dakota. It's miserably cold. So I bundle up and I walk down in the freezing cold to the YMCA and sign up for a membership with the intention of taking yoga classes. I don't even do yoga that day, Kimberly. But that changed the trajectory of my life. I am so glad I remembered that breakthrough. I'm so glad I remember that piece of advice that turned out to be a breakthrough once I used it. I guess before I used it, it was just a piece of advice.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what happened when you went to yoga class? After you told me you threw the shot put backwards now. Like what
and
happened when you went to yoga class?
and that's it. I mean, from my athletic endeavors in grade school and in junior high and in high school I did do track and cross country, so I didn't know I could run in a semi straight line, albeit very slowly. So I didn't know that. But I just made the assumption that I couldn't do anything thing other than walk in terms of physical activity. So before I answer your question on what happened in the first yoga class, can I tell you a brief story about how powerful assumption can be?
Okay. Yes.
So a month ago, I booked this podcast. I went on your scheduling link, and I booked 7:30, and I just assumed, I assumed like I knew. When I say assumed, I knew as fact that we were going to talk at 8:30 a.m. on today, July 31st. I just knew that in my mind. And then today I get on at 7:30 and I'm like, no, Kimberly. And I'm like, oh, things happen. And then a few hours later, I'm sending emails. Are you all right, Kimberly? I hope everything's all right. And then tonight,
Mhm.
you're like, Jason, we're talking at 7:30 p.m. tonight. PM. And I look back and everything, all the emails, and I've got an email reminders and Zoom links and all this stuff, and they all very specifically say 7:30 p.m. But I had in my head 7:30 a.m. I tell this story because assumptions can be so powerful. I assumed when I walked into the first yoga class that when I couldn't do most of what the class was about. Two, the students would be looking at me. Three, that the teacher might take me aside after class and say, Jason, thanks for coming, but this really isn't for you.
Mm.
And I have to tell you, like, my assumption that we were talking at 8:30 a.m. this morning, those assumptions were all wrong too. Yeah, yes, yoga is immensely challenging for me, especially in the beginning. But there was a lot of the class I could do. And in the things I couldn't do, the teachers were eager to provide a way for me to modify.
Mhm.
Instead of the students looking at me and kind of laughing, I think they were inspired that I was in the class. And the teacher was eager for me to come back. And so here's now the other part of the story that we began talking about. So you asked me originally what shifted after I called for help. The other part of the story is between huge breakthroughs, at least in my experience. There's a lot of daily showing up and daily work and a lot of daily kindness of other people.
Mhm.
Like after I called for help in seventh grade, my folks were with a distraught teenager who had just attempted suicide, but had luckily called for help day in and day out. I mean, just because I called for help, it doesn't mean I was as you can imagine. It doesn't mean I was a pleasure to be around. Was not, but they persisted in listening to me, of trying to help me, of getting me help. I went to a counselor for a while after that. They persisted, and and things got better, and when high school came around, I wanted to drive like the other kids. And can you guess what was the age that you could get a learner's permit in South Dakota back when I was a teenager? Can you guess?
I think it's 15 here, but I don't know what it was there.
It was 14 there.
Oh,
14. So young, so
mm,
young. But and so I was, as we've talked about, didn't have much coordination. Something we haven't talked about, I was easily distracted, extremely stressed out by life. And my dad took it upon himself to teach me how to drive. And as you can imagine, luckily there were no major accidents. But as you can imagine, there were close calls and it took a lot of patience.
mm,
My dad persisted. In terms of the in terms of Ina's, my friend in the car, Ina saying, turning to me, Jason, and saying, Jason, your voice is a gift. I mean, that could have gone in one ear and out the other and just been like a million other things I've heard, but I took that to heart, and I've been on a quest to find out how to make a life since then where my voice is a gift. Has that always been straightforward? No. Has there been a simple map to follow? Like a GPS saying go here, go here? No. I persisted in that, and when I say that, there's hundreds of, probably even thousands of heroes on that journey, including you who have helped me see my voice as a gift. And in terms of my breakthroughs with in Missoula with Ann and Uncle Bill, if I gave up Coke, drinking 3 Cokes a day for one day, would that have been a breakthrough? No. But I haven't drank a Coke for 10 or 12 years now. I mean, pop doesn't interest me anymore. I would, it sounds gross to me, so that became a breakthrough. I mean, that's a breakthrough that continues. Every day I don't drink pop, that's a breakthrough. Now, Kimberly saying that I still am looking for a breakthrough in terms of sugary treats. I love monster cookies. I love ice cream. On and on. So I'm still looking for more breakthroughs in that area. But in terms of pop, luckily. In terms of yoga, if I had gone to one class and had a good experience, woohoo, I could have thought about it fondly and been like, oh, I had a good experience. Wasn't that fun?
Mhm.
But that wouldn't have been a sustained breakthrough. But I've gone to, since after that day, I went to probably thousands of yoga classes. I moved from Sioux Falls to San Diego and I found a studio pilgrimage of the hut. A studio that I deeply love and still brings tears to my eyes just thinking about its energy. But at my height, I was doing yoga classes 7 days a week. Some days I was a few days. Some of those days I would go to 2 classes a day once in a while, and so it became a sustained breakthrough. No, does that mean I still go to yoga classes? No. I've gotten into a meditation practice that I really love and I do that daily now. But the breakthrough of yoga formed a bridge between where I was, feeling miserable, and not knowing how to use my stress in a comfortable way to create what I wanted in life, to where I'm now, where I feel so at ease and where I have the confidence to talk your ear off.
So I'm just
You,
wondering about going back to yoga for a minute because you said you were going every day, sometimes twice a day. What specifically did yoga do for you that was so healing that you made that commitment to go every day?
mm, mm, mm. Oh, I need to add this too. In that time I was in San Diego, I also became a yoga teacher. I went. I was certified. I've never really tried yoga. My career's taken me in different directions, but I'm a certified yoga teacher. But oh, I was. I let it lapse. But what was specifically about yoga? It's a big question, and I want to try to answer it well. So I'll just speak for myself, obviously. So I was throughout my life from birth to starting yoga, I was accustomed to mainly moving in certain ways, walking occasionally, running, doing some outdoor work. I mean, in terms of the variety of motion that a person can engage in, I was engaged in a very limited scope of motion. And does that make sense?
Hmm.
And yoga helped me broaden that scope of motion through stretching and also flowing from pose to pose. And, and then the breath work helped me finally relax and helped me finally develop the skills to relax on a consistent basis or become I like to say, productively relax on a consistent basis. But, but think about what a constricted range of motion and a constricted range of breath does to or at least did to my ability to think creatively.
Mhm.
It 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 constricted my ability to think creatively, and I don't know if I've heard this expressed, if I've expressed it before, but as a human being, we get so much from the physical parts of our life, and if the part is constricted, to me that makes sense that it would constrict our thoughts
Mhm.
and 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 get us focusing on now on negative thoughts often and not on creative solutions to the problems in our lives. So yoga helped me at every level from the basic physical to the spiritual.
Mhm. That makes total sense to me. As an eye doctor, a behavioral optometrist, I'd work in people with in the therapy room, and we do things physically with their body and using their eyes to open up their visual field, to open up their whole system. And when you open up their system, they can make better decisions. They feel better. They feel more confident. They feel like they can do more things because all of a sudden they have more information because they're open. So that makes total sense.
It's as you say that makes total sense, and it's been tough for me to get past the idea that of the mind being a separate entity that's somehow independent of the motion of our bodies or what we see with our eyes. But I really I really don't think that's the case. I think the mind is the mind is so dependent on sensory input in the motion of our bodies,
Mm.
and sensory input in the motion of our bodies can really change the quality of our mind, I think.
Mm. And the quality of our life. When you're integrating all those things, you feel so much better.
Hmm. So much better.
Yeah. So, talk about what you're doing now. When you go and you speak to groups, who is your audience? Who are you speaking to and what are you speaking to them about?
My audience is whoever happens to be in front of me. I love speaking to middle school and high school students, and I have a such a I feel such a kinship to what they're going through, because I was the awfully confused teenager trying to look cool once. I speak to another audience. I speak to is young people and a mixed group of young people, middle school, high school, and adults at churches, and love bringing the groups together to to help both the young people know a little more about what it's like being an adult and a struggle the adults go through, and reminding the adults of what it's like to be a young person. And I hope those talks I have with those groups will start intergenerational conversations.
Which is so important because, when you're growing up, it's obvious to other people because yours is physical, it's outside, that you could be suffering in some way. But so many people, they don't have anything physical going on, but they have something going on in their heart or their mind, and they're suffering, and they're suffering in silence, and nobody sees it. Nobody sees it. And so, talking to them and letting them know it's okay to be who you are, because we're all special, unique, brilliant. We're all born brilliant. And, just to let people know, especially kids coming up, middle school and high school is tough. It's really tough. They're trying to figure out who they are and they want to be accepted, but sometimes being yourself, you're not always accepted. And it could be like, what you dealt with where something is outside, but there's so many people having these inside struggles. So they need to know that they could speak to their parents, they could speak to someone about it.
Those quiet or silent challenges or disabilities, they can be devastating because it's it's easier, I guess, to put on a kind of a happy face and pretend that everything's normal, and really make that invisible. And there's also and also when we make things invisible, it becomes so tough because we can feel so alone in that, and like and if we don't talk about it with anyone else, then we don't hear possibly the stories of going through the same thing, or something similar.
Mhm.
And we're humans. We crave being in community. We crave friendships. We crave understanding, and if we try to hide a silent or quiet disability, it can just be so painful. I mean, I tried to do that with my speech impediment, but that was impossible. But I definitely, for years, I tried to hide my. I was extremely anxious, extremely worried, and I tried to hide all of that because I thought it was unacceptable,
Mm,
and that became very lonely. And
mm, yeah. So if people wanted to connect with you, if they'd like to have you come and speak, this is the point where you tell us, what services you have, where do they connect with you, what you're offering.
so the best place to connect with me is awkwardlyawesome.com, awkwardlyawesome.com, and it's so my first mission, and one of my first missions, and one of my first, that doesn't make sense. So there's two purposes of the website. Forget what I say about one of my first missions. That was confusing. But one of the two purposes of the website is to really get people considering new perspectives. Like, I talk about a lot about the concept of imperfect best, and awkwardly awesome, and I have lots on that about that, and inspirational Tedx Talk, and it goes on and on and on. I love producing content that helps people think and hopefully be gentler with themselves and approach lives in new ways. The other point of the website is I'm a speaker. I speak to schools, churches, groups that of people with disabilities, people who work with them, and I also love speaking to to businesses, to the list goes on and on. So if you're listening and my message is kind of resonating, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm at a hospital," and Jason doesn't say he speaks to he speaks to audiences at hospitals. Just I encourage you to reach out and let's have a conversation. Maybe I'm a good fit for you to give your audience what they need. Maybe I'm not, but let's have a conversation and inspire each other.
Beautiful. So now just a personal question. What gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
Oh my. It's a great question, and I don't have a single answer for you. I could. Can I list the top 5 things that come to mind real fast?
Please do.
Friendships. Friendships. I love talking with people. Being a host of Awkwardly Awesome podcasts. I love interviewing people. Um, my family living back in the Midwest. I live close to my parents, and I live a lot closer to my extended family. I don't know. Taking photos. I take thousands of photos of. I love the ways buildings interact with nature, and I love composition. Maybe the traveling's the fifth thing. But I could go on and on and on and on.
So many things to be thankful for and yeah, feel good about. So, yeah, well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, for sharing your story and your wisdom.
Hey, thanks for having me, and you are amazing at listening and holding space, and
Mhm.
I was able to express some things in your on your podcast I've never said in this exact way before. So thank you so much, Kimberly.
Yeah, so I have one last question before we finish. What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Um, um, realize that you cannot predict your future. Realize that your past is not predictive of the future. So I would say explore your present, explore it and discover as much as you can, and discover things you love, things that interest you. Discover the things you find incredible, and just I mean, instead of paying attention to so much attention to all the things you don't like, I mean, be aware of what you don't like it, but focus more on what's incredible to you, and just keep going, keep persisting and finding your incredible life day by day, and be grateful for your daily discoveries, and know that tomorrow's discoveries will be different.
Thank you so much, Jason.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. This
Okay.
has been a pleasure.
All right. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, talk soon.